Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous, hosted by Bruce Hutchin. I'm so happy you've joined us today, and you're going to find out a lot about whitetail hunting on the show. This is Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 384. We're going to head over to Missouri today, and we're going to visit with Donald Hill. Who's Donald Hill? Well, he owns Oak Creek Whitetail Ranch. Yes, it's a whitetail preserve, high fence. Plus, he's got over 1,000 acres of free-ranging whitetails, and he's a deer breeder. So all three combined touch every single aspect in the whitetail world. So I'm excited to have Donald Hill on the line today, and we're going to talk about all three aspects of his operation at Oak Creek Whitetail Ranch. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, and folks, this is going to be a special edition. I've never had somebody that runs a preserve on the show before, and I'm fortunate to have Donald Hill from Missouri and Oak Creek Whitetail Ranch on the show with us this morning. Donald, welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Well, I am too, and I'm looking forward to uncovering just what a whitetail preserve is and isn't. So let's start right there.
Yeah. Well, how I got involved is I was just infatuated with the whitetail deer all my life, and hunted public land, and honestly was against high fence in my younger ages, and had some friends out in East Texas that kept inviting me to go out. Actually, they were clients, and I didn't really want to hurt their feelings, and I really didn't want to go hunt a high fence, but they just would not let up on it. And run up going, decided I would go, and I wouldn't shoot anything. I would just look at the deer, and absolutely fell in love with their property. It was, I think I learned more in 3 days of being on that property, being around mature deer and getting to watch mature deer, getting to watch their body language, their vocalization. Hunting public land, I never knew deer vocalized as much. We didn't have to change my mind about how to manage deer. It's just, and that's what got me into it. I was tired of watching 140, 150-inch deer at my deer lease down in South Arkansas grow up, and then my neighbors shoot them, or the lease got, somebody on the lease shoot them, and especially the younger deer. It just drove me nuts. Tried to talk them into planting food plots and feeding protein feed and, doing everything that everybody else in the world does. And once I went to that high fence and saw how they could manage those deer so much better and let them grow up, it was a no-brainer for me. Since then, I wanted to buy my own property and manage deer. And luckily, all the cards lined up, or all the stars lined up, and I was able to do that with my wife, and we moved to Missouri back in 2004 and started a whole ranch, and that's all we do now. We just live, breathe, and eat whitetail.
When you think about it,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, personally, I've never, I don't think I've even been on high fence. In New Mexico, I visited a high fence elk operation, and 5,000 acres in each pen. So, a lot of ground to cover, but it is
right.
high fence. And then they've got another 20,000 acres that are just as wild as any other place. They're no fences. It's just, wide open hunting. And I understand you have that available at your ranch also.
Right. If it's done right, now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of bad high fences out there, and I'll be the first one to point them out. It's as long as you keep it a fair chase hunt. We bought these deer in from Canada back in 1992, and they have just done really, really well. We were able to manage them. We were able to let the deer that we, just like at your lease, the young deer, everybody tries to, let's let this deer live. Let's let this deer do the breeding. Let's let this deer get a little bit old. That's exactly what we do here. We try to make, if a deer is not what we want, what we call breeding potential at the time, it's sometimes 2 years old, we can tell it's not going to be, or 3 years old. We try to get that animal out of the herd. And then the 4 and 5 and 6 year olds are doing most of the breeding. And might not be a big high scoring deer, but it might be, right now what we're breeding for, or what we're wanting to breed, because it's all natural out there. There's nothing you can do about it to control that. your spikes are going to breed. There's, but we try to do the best we can. And they, and so going back to, there's, like I said, there's some bad high fence ranches, but the best scenario I can tell you is I get people that come to my ranch or call me all the time and say, I'm thinking about going on a hunt, but I'm just really not a big fan of the high fence. I just don't know if I can handle that. And I invite everybody to come out. Come on out, take a tour, show up about an hour or two before dark. When it's good deer movement, and we'll go take a tour. And I've got bean fields and clover fields right here off the back of the deck of the lodge, and every night there's going to be 50, 60 deer out in those clover fields and stuff. And these are all free ranging deer. But what we do right off the bat, we jump in my old beat up Durango and we roll down the hill and we pull right out in the middle of that bean field, and I roll the windows down and I slap the side of the car and I holler at them, hey, hey. And the deer look up and they're still chewing their cud and they're looking at me going, they know something's there and they know something's not right. But, and every one of those hunters will say, see, I just don't think I could hunt deer like this. And I tell them, well, these are wild deer. Let's go in the preserve. And once we get in the preserve, those deer.
Wait a minute. Go back. So you get somebody on the ranch, and so you say, let's take a tour.
Right.
A sundown tour, and that's a great way to get people acclimated. One, they see critters, and
right.
then they get a kind of the lay of the land. And they get a sense of where they are, what's it look like, blah blah blah, all that. And that's a good way to introduce somebody to the ranch. And the places that I've been fortunate enough to hunt, the ranchers, they do that. They say, hey, get in here after 12 o'clock, and then we'll take a little ride. Your hunt doesn't start the next morning, so we're just going to take a little ride and show you kind of what's around.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all, free range, free range cattle, no free range deer, elk, or a mule deer. And I love that, because especially if I have my grandkids with me or my son with me, all of a sudden they go, wow,
right.
Because we've all gone huntless. I've eaten tags, and it just had never closed the deal. And it gives you,
and that's part of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I said, and eating those tags is part of it. It's a hunt. It's not the kill. It's the hunt and the experiences, and that's why we love it so much. So
go back to
whether
in the Durango.
So back to our story. Yeah. So we roll down into the fields, which are all free ranging deer, and I slap the side of the car, and these deer look up and they, they're still chewing their cud, and a few of them will leave, a few of them will stay, but every hunter will say, man, I just can't do this. I cannot hunt deer like this. I said, well, these are wild deer. Let's go into the preserve. So we'll go on across the creek, we'll ease into the preserve, and the deer in my preserve they're so wild. They see us in there. They see a lot of pressure. They get a lot of pressure. They get a lot of people in there. So all you're going to see is tails in that preserve. And that's all they see. They'll see a buck going into the woods as we pull into a field, or, a bunch of doe leaving out. And, it's not what everybody expects. And I sell more hunts that way than anything else in the world. If I can get somebody on the property to see what it's about, I bet I'm probably a 99.9% closing on them. They're going to book with me. And that's the bad thing about our hunting industry nowadays is, nobody gives it a chance. Oh, my buddy says it's bad, so I'm not going to try it. I'm too embarrassed to try it. Well, guys, you are missing the best experience of your life. I'm not saying it's a better experience than going to South Texas and hunting free ranging deer. I'm not saying it's a better experience than going to Missouri and hunting free ranging deer. Well, maybe I am, okay? But the difference is what I'm trying to say is the experience. If it's no different than going to South Texas. I love my South Texas hunting. I love my Midwest hunting. I also love mule deer and elk hunting, turkey hunting. It's all a different experience, and you've got to keep that in mind and keep that open mind and go enjoy yourself. I can promise you, if you've never hunted a high fence and you go to a good, legitimate high fence, you're going to enjoy that more than a whole life's worth of hunting free ranging deer. It's just it's a different experience, and I don't know how to say it any better than you're going to learn. You're going to learn more than you've ever learned about a whitetail deer, because you're going to see mature deer, on public land. And I think nowadays, I read an article the other day that public land hunting, the average age of a whitetail deer is 18 months when it gets harvested. That's a year and a half old deer. and that's the average age of that. So these deer are smart. We also have some stupid deer in that fence. The stupid deer in this fence live to be 3, 4 years old. They might go nocturnal. They might not, they might get smarter. In the free ranging world, a stupid deer at 18 months is going to get shot, and he doesn't have a chance to grow up. So, it is what it is, and I wish more people would make the mistake like I did and try it once for themselves and realize how much they've been missing out on all their life by not hunting a good, legitimate high fence ranch. So,
And thanks for that. And I just want to add, QDMA just came out with a good report. Well, if you read their annual report on QDMA 2017
mm-hmm.
whitetail report, and Kip Adams had a good article that they've got information that we're trending past the year and a half old deer. I know in Wisconsin
Yep.
it was 2.5 years old, a 2.5-year-old average of bucks killed, and it seems things are changing because people are letting them go and letting them grow. I know on the farm I have hunted in Wisconsin for a long time. We took a 180 deer um, for the first time ever. We've taken 130s,
Sure.
140s, but we took a deer that was easily 6.5 years old. He was an old deer, and Garrett Shear's been on the show, and I've got pictures of it. If you want to go, just look on Whitetail Rendezvous, Garrett Shear, and you'll see a picture of the deer.
Mm-hmm.
Just mass all over the place, just a gorgeous, gorgeous deer. And he took it the second day of the season. He had patented on the clover field, put his stand in the right place, was in the right place. He came out, and the deal was done. And so there is a trend to hunting mature bucks, and that's the challenge. When you get my age, it's the challenge of the hunt. It isn't so much putting the deer down. If I want to get some deer sausage and stuff, I'll just say, okay, I'll buy some doe tags, and we'll do some doe patrolling and do it. And any place I go hunt, I'll say, hey, if you have doe tags after I get my buck, or even if I don't get my buck, I'd love to take a couple of does, and I love summer sausage and jerky, and so that's kind of how we do it at Whitetail Rendezvous. But thinking about you and the opportunity now, tell me why. Back to your story. So you're just regular farmland, you're open range, if you call it that, and then the deer just stand and look at you, but then you go in the high fence and they skedaddle. Why is that behavior?
Sure. Just because of pressure. I think the deer just learn the pressure. They're so much smarter because they have so much pressure. So they know if I stand around here too long, somebody's gonna be sending some lead my way. And a lot of that is the management styles. We're able to manage, you're talking about going back to shooting your doe up in Wisconsin. You cannot shoot enough doe in the free ranging world. And I know the old timers are rolling over in their grave hearing me say that. But guys, if you want to manage deer, you've got to shoot doe. And that's the only way you're going to ever get good ratios and good quality buck. You're not going to kill those big smart deer, free ranging or in behind the fence, wherever you're talking about. If you've got too many doe, they don't have to move. Those mature doe are going to those big matured buck and laying in the thickets with them and getting bred. They know those mature buck are going to protect them from all the young buck that are going to chase them around and around and around and run them to death. And they're going to just go in there, lay with that big buck, and let him do all the work. And then when it's time, he'll breed them, and then they'll go on about their business. But they know that they're safe with that big buck, and that buck knows he doesn't have to leave that thicket. So you're not going to kill that deer unless it's a mistake. Somebody's going to run him out of that thicket. He's going to get out of his comfort zone and make a mistake, and somebody's going to kill that deer. And I'm a firm believer in that. And my dad and all the old timers in my lease in South Texas, you never convince them to shoot all the doe. But nowadays the hunters are getting smarter, and they're starting to figure that out. And we're killing better deer, just like you said. It's taken long time, but it's happened. So
yeah, it's just interesting. And the other thing I found in talking to a lot of people, and I'm not going to start naming names because I'll leave somebody out, but deer nutrition and the food plots and that's a whole industry that's just, it's $1 billion industry. The food plot
You
and
bet.
the mineral business. It's just, and you've been in it for a long time, but people on their leases or their farms or uh, and outfitters are just realizing that, the better nutrition, what goes in builds the deer,
Hmm.
and they become better deer. If they got good stuff going in,
You
then they're
bet.
going to be healthier deer. And, there's plenty of, minerals out there that profess to grow, big horns. And I found out from a guy uh, in in Nebraska. He owns Rackology, and he's a biology. He's got
Hmm.
a master's degree in biology, and he said, and I never knew this, and I want to share it with everybody, that it's January, February that the deer puts the minerals in his bones that he's going to spend uh, or utilize to build his rack. I never knew that. I never knew how that happened,
Exactly.
and it's
You
just,
bet.
and so guys and gals, if you put minerals out, put them out in January, February, March, and
Yeah.
let them do
Yeah.
that.
Because everybody quits then. The hunting season's over, so they quit doing it, and he's exactly right. He's right on the money. They need that. They need that time of year. If you're going to do anything for your deer, that's the time of the year to do it. They've got, the deer on my property, they're going to have an inch and a half, 2 inches of fat on their back. They're fat, but we feed year round. And the most important time is when they're, and it's not when they're growing those horns, it's before they're growing those horns. If you can keep them healthy through that winter, when the time comes to grow horns, if they're already healthy, they're not going to put that all that nutrition back into getting their body healthy. They're already healthy, so that it goes straight into those horns, and they're going to grow a lot better horns. And there's no secret formula out there. I've been doing this. I've tried just about everything on the market. Now, there's some good vitamin and minerals, and there's some good products out there. But if your deer are healthy, if they're getting the right nutrition, if they're getting the right fats and the fibers and the proteins and all that stuff, they're going to put horns on their head. If they're good, healthy, they're going to survive diseases. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I can see. Missouri's the roasting pot for EHD. We lose thousands and thousands of deer every year to EHD, and I can knock on wood because it scares me to death to ever say this out loud, but I don't have problems with EHD. My deer are so healthy that they can fight that disease off, and they're going to, they survive. I'll have deer out in my free ranging world. We're going and picking up horns just, pretty regular. And that just the deer they can't fight that off. So you feed those animals, you make them good and healthy. Whether that's through food plots or whatever whatever you want to do, but they're going to survive those diseases a lot better.
Now, with your free ranging deer, do you set up food plots? Tell me how you manage that herd.
Well, on my free ranging area, it's mainly commercial. We've got soybeans, and we're actually planting a bunch of sunflowers this year. We plant millet. We plant, here below the lodge, I have clover and wheat and rye, and just 4 food plots for the deer. But on our commercial area, everywhere else, we're always just planting commercial food plots, and I'm pretty. I like whitetail deer, so mainly usually what I try to plant is what a deer will eat. So I'm just opposite of most farmers. I want them to eat that. I want them to be around and stick around year round and be good and healthy. So yeah, we do the same thing inside my fence as I do outside the fence, and try to do the same. We go in and we edge feather the fields. We try to create habitat for everything: the rabbits, the quail, the deer, everything. And we're constantly working out there. My guys they work 24/7, 7 days a week. Seems like just all the time, just improving the habitat for the whitetail deer and other animals. It's a full-time job.
Now, how many acres do you have free range, and how many acres do you have preserve?
We manage about 2,500 acres. Behind fence, we've got about 1,500 acres. So, and the rest is a free ranging area.
So walk me through your high fence preserve area. Is it sectioned off into pens, or is it just completely open? Because you have to have your breeding
No,
stock, um,
it's
corralled up or penned up.
right. And my breeding operation is a totally different operation. It's totally away from my preserve. It doesn't have anything to do with my preserve. We've got a breeding operation that we do breed, and we buy and sell deer to other preserves and other deer breeders throughout the industry. We're hoping to get the venison sales where we can start selling venison to the meat market and the restaurants around Missouri and throughout the United States. And that's a totally different operation. In my preserve, I've got those preserves and they're open. There's no cross fencing. It's just like hunting a 1,500 acre lease somewhere or private land somewhere. And
Okay, so 2,500 acres, 1,500 is in the preserve, then you got 1,000 acres free range. Is that correct?
mm-hmm. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. And then
Pretty close to that.
here's something I think people see, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Donald, but they see, breeding. Keith Warren has a show, and you're always seeing deer in pens, and they're breeding and breeding
Mm-hmm.
stock, and that's a whole business unto itself. And then the
Exactly.
transfer from that into the field, sometimes I think that gets fuzzy. It does for me, and I could be completely
Yeah.
missing it. And I apologize to Keith Warren for that, for
Yeah.
missing what he's trying
Yeah.
to portray. But for the most part, you think of these pens and like the sanctuary up in Michigan and other places, you go, yes, you enter into a fence, but that's the last time you'll probably see the fence. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You'll never know you're in a big operation like that. You'll never know you're in a fence. It's there's just acres and acres of land there. But kind of going back to what you hit on, you're exactly right. The the breeding industry is the fastest growing agriculture industry in the United States right now. It's just the market and the money you can make doing that. It's a great business. They're buying and selling bred doe for as cheap as $2,000 all the way up to $250,000. It's no different than the racehorse and the cattle industry and all that. And 90% of those deer will never ever see a preserve. Um, they're bred just like a horse or a cow, or it's an agricultural business. To where you know the preserve of my preserve, it's made up of those deer back from 1992 that we bought in from Canada, and they're just flourishing very well. Now I will take some of my cull animals out of my preserve, and I'll release. I usually release 20 or 30 bred doe out in that preserve every year, and they have their fawns out there naturally and everything, and they do. That's how I increase genetics out there. If I'm looking for, maybe I'm starting to see some short G2s. So I'm able to release those genetics to where I can in my free ranging area. So I can I can breed with a buck that has really strong G2s to those cull doe that I'm releasing out of my preserve and put them out there, and hopefully her fawns, or whether that be doe or buck fawns, they're going to be my new genetic crop, 4 or 5 years from there, and they're gonna start producing better G2s. And that's kind of how we've done it in the past. We, along with selective culling, we'll try to shoot any of the 2-year-olds that are just, I hate to say this, but 180 inches. If they're not hitting 180 inches by the time they're 2 years old, we want to take them out of there because we don't want them breeding. If there's a deer that's got short beams, I don't want him breeding, so we'll shoot him as he'll be someone's trophy, but to us, it's really, actually, if you want to use the word right, it's a cull buck because we don't want him doing any breeding. So it's
And
just an extensive way of managing, just like we do in our. We can't quite do that in our free ranging area because we still don't have enough tags. But it just gives us an advantage of culling and managing that way.
okay, let me go back to the free range now, so I understand it. So, um, the preserve, you can manage that any way you want. So you see, that
Hmm.
doe isn't throwing the bucks we want because she's getting sired by you know quote unquote an inferior buck. So we're going to change that
Mhm.
up now because the free ranging is privately held, but are the deer in the state of Missouri owned by the state of Missouri in free range situation?
In the free range, yes, sir. Hmm.
Okay, so you can't genetically mix that up because you can't take, as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't take a preserved deer and put them out to breed with the free ranging deer. Is
Right,
that correct?
right, right. Now Texas can, and that's why Texas has so many what you want to call Boone and Crockett deer. I mean, they're able to take those animals out of these breeding facilities, release them out into the wild on these free ranging ranches, and they're improving their genetics. And it's worked for Texas for years and years and years. And man, I wish Missouri would let us do that. I mean, we could really start killing some world record deer. We could change. We could compete with Texas if we could do that because we've got the deer just grow so much better in Missouri. They've got so much to eat. With all the Midwest, not necessarily Missouri, but in the Midwest, they've got so much food and browse and nutrition compared to Texas that man, we could rewrite the record books in Missouri if we could do that. And we've done that in the past. Back in the old days, there weren't any deer, so they took them out of private facilities and restocked Missouri and Arkansas and a lot of states, southern states with the northern deer. And we used to, when I was younger, everybody always talked about the old blue deer down in Arkansas, and that's exactly what that was, is deer from Michigan and up north that they restocked, and we used to kill some really good deer back in the old days.
Yeah, it's interesting. So
But
you get into the political aspect of managing your herd. So now we're talking about DLW biologists, and you do have some
mhm,
disease control. And I know in the elk business, elk ranching out here they call it. Um, you know they had some terrible, terrible diseases, and they had to just shut down herds, and they still CWD,
mhm,
still have in certain areas. We got to test, all the time,
sure.
and it's just you just wonder, how quote unquote deer farms could work better with the DOW. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I'm just throwing it out there, and
I don't know why it won't happen. It really should. You're exactly right. Because, you know, the bad thing about it is, I've got biologists on staff that work here that came straight out of school, and they've learned more in a week's time here than they've learned 4 years of biology, in the classroom. So, um, man, they could learn so much from being around the whitetail deer in a situation like this, and we could help them so much because you know, as far as you mentioned CWD, we've already got a resistant genotype of CWD. We could breed CWD out of our herds. It's the wild deer that are going to have issues with that. So if CWD ever gets to where it's killing a deer and it's devastating populations like they say it will, which it hadn't and it never will because it's not that type of a disease. It's a political disease. We can repopulate the population with resistant deer and go on about it. All this shooting all these animals and killing. We've tried this in so many states now, Wisconsin, and everybody's tried to go in and decimate the population just to save the deer. They got to kill the deer to save the deer. But we've tried that in so many states. It doesn't work. Guys, quit killing the deer. Let them breed out of it. They will breed this genetic resistance into the herd, and they're going to be a stronger, healthier herd. The good Lord knows what He's doing. He invents these diseases for population control. He'll protect us there, and just let Him do His work. And we just got to kill some more deer and keep the population down where it needs to be, and let the deer take care of themselves. They're as good as the alligator and all this other stuff back in the good old days that survived disease after disease after disease. They're a strong breed. They're gonna work it out themselves. And the more we try to manage that disease and try to kill the deer to save the deer. That's old school, guys. We got to quit doing this. They will survive. They'll create themselves and be a healthier herd when they get finished with themselves.
that's well said.
Uh,
You
so
know,
I am a strong believer in that.
yeah, that I like that. So, education wise, do you bring kids out, women out, veterans out to the ranch? What's the process of if somebody wants to come out and
Sure.
one learn about deer, see deer, and then hunt deer?
Yeah, our gates are always open. Anytime anybody wants to come out, just give me a call. We'll take them for a tour. Um, we have a youth hunt that we usually do. We haven't done it the last couple of years, but every year we invite. This is the fun. I don't know how much time we've got. It's it's a great story, but
Go ahead.
we go into the classroom. Okay, we go into the classroom, and we're in rural Missouri. We're thinking that everybody hunts. There's no one that doesn't hunt in rural Missouri. But I go into these classrooms every year, and what we do is we invite the kids out, and to come out and hunt with us and do a fun. It's almost a Jake's National Wild Turkey Federation Jake's event. But I'll go into these gyms, and one of the first questions I ask these kids is, "Who here has never hunted but would like to hunt?" And every school, no matter where I go to, 75% of those kids raise their hand. And I cannot believe in rural Missouri we're not getting these kids involved. But we do a program that we do exactly like that. They have to write a little essay, whether they've hunted, not hunted, give us their most memorable experiences. If they haven't hunted, tell us why they want to hunt. And we take these essays and we pick usually 30 kids every year to come out, and we let them shoot doe and cull buck. And we'll do Thursday and Friday of hunting, and then Saturday we have all the kids. We'll have 200 kids here, and we let them shoot 22s and throw tomahawks and shoot bows and shoot shotguns. It's just an educational, show them how to tree stand safety, hunter safety. We just try to work everything into a fun day. They all get prizes at the end of the day. And why I said that is we've got to get these kids involved. For 75% of the kids to raise their hand in rural Missouri, we are not doing these kids justice, and we've got to get them involved. But anybody that wants to come out, I know we're doing a tour with the Rolla Public Schools this June, I believe. I had a teacher call me yesterday morning, and they're going to bring their kids out, and we're going to show them the facility and show them. We'll actually take them into the breeding operation and let them pet some. We do have some deer that we try to tame down. They're all breeding deer. They'll die of old age in there because they're my family's pets. They've lived in my house with me for the first 2 or 3 weeks of their life. They're just like a dog, and we'll take them in through that, and then we'll take them out in the preserve and show them the difference in the deer. The wild deer versus the deer in the pens, and we've got to start educating these kids and get them more involved. We're losing the hunting population. It's shrinking every day. Every day, it's I don't know if it's all the bad publicity and everything they were getting, but we've got to get these kids involved.
Now, have you ever gone to Missouri DOW and said, "Hey, I'll do a weekend, and every kid that comes shows up Friday afternoon, and when they leave, and I'll have DOW people here, and we'll do it. They'll get their hunter safety card when they leave, and basically it's all on me.
Sure,
we'll do it." Have you ever
no,
done that?
we've talked about. We haven't. We've talked about that, and I have taken groups of kids to the classes and stuff, but I've never done one out here. And we've talked about doing that out here. I would love to do that out here because it would be real easy for them, a good situation and plenty of land for them to shoot and do all the fun stuff. So
Yeah, I think that for perceptions, maybe all of a sudden you get these kids at a younger age, and you go, "Hey, I got my hunting safety at Oak Creek Whitetail Ranch, and I had a great time." And and you're helping the DOW because they always, I know Colorado, this time of year, today's the last day to put in the application, so everybody wanted to get their application unless they were 11 years old. They'd get their hunter safety before they have to hunt, but everybody else has to have their hunter safety after they're born after X date. So I think of that, and I think a way of creating goodwill, but more than that, you get the kids where they are positively reinforced, rather in a classroom situation. Yeah, they go to the classroom and then they go outside and then they're surrounded by deer, and they go, "Wow, that's what it looks like."
Yep. And that's how. Yeah. and that's what we used to do. When I took my hunter safety course, we went out and shot shotguns for the day, and it was a good time. So I think it would be more interesting for kids, and especially the kids that don't have the opportunity, where they've got someone that's going to take them hunting and stuff. They get a little bit of taste of that. I think it would be a big plus for everyone if we could do more of that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that in the post show. Um, we're at the time that I
Yeah.
want to make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you. Please give us your number and your social media platforms.
Mhm. Yeah, we're on just about every social media platform. We've got um, Facebook is Oak Creek. I think it's the world premier hunting destination. My telephone number is 573 or you can go to our website. It's Oak Creek Whitetail Ranch.com. Um,
How
we'd
about
love to hear from
Instagram?
you. And if
How
there's
about
anything we can do
Instagram?
or answer any question, yep.
Instagram, YouTube.
Instagram, LinkedIn, we've got it all. So, and if you go to that website, you can get a click in on all those social media sites, and we should be able to find us there. So, but I'm always, if you have any nutrition problems or anything any questions, we're always open. I've got a staff here that would love to help you out, or if you just want to come out and look and see what it's all about, we welcome everyone. So do it yourself. Do yourself a favor. If you've never hunted a high fence, try it. Make sure you get a good, legitimate place and go try it or go experience it, or at least just go for a tour, because you will absolutely fall in love with it. It's if you love the whitetail deer or just good management tactics, you know, you'll enjoy it, and you'll have your eyes will open. I believe.
Did you ever get a hold of Jason Obermeyer from Obermiller, pardon me, or Eric
Right.
Fitzgerald from Rackology?
I did, and those boys have got it going on. They're on the right path, and I think that's who you were talking about earlier
Right,
about
right,
the
right.
yeah,
Rackology.
they have got a good. I haven't tried any of the mineral. He was going to send me some mineral, and I was going to compare it and kind of do some nutritional work on it and try to look at it and all that. But they're on the right track. They've got some products that are going to come out that are going to change the way people think. We have been doing the same thing they're doing for quite some time. So once their products hit the market and really get started, I think they'll have a winner there, and I think the deer are going to win from it also. But
Well, at that
he
point,
seems.
I think this
Go
is a
ahead.
natural, um, soft stop. So, why don't you give shout outs to, whoever you want and the people that support you at Oak Creek Whitetail Ranch, and then we'll call it a show.
Well, that sounds good. We really don't have any sponsors. We use a lot of product. We just ordered some new Bushnell cameras that are working really well. We're getting a lot of turkey stuff video. Those really work really well. Hunter Specialty is we use most of their clover and most of their wildlife plot seeds. They work really well for us. I've got King Ranch blinds. Seems to be a really good blind that I work with. Then we've got the stump. You've seen the stump blinds. I can't even think of the name of the nature blinds. They've got a really good blind. If you want a blind that a deer will walk right up to and look in the door, those blinds work really well. They look just like a tree stump that you crawled into. But like I said, I don't really have any sponsors, but want to thank my wife for putting up with it. It's been a long, long, long journey for her. So to finally let somebody do what they love to do and step out on a limb to try to make a living at it, she's a good woman. So, but I love the whitetail deer, and if there's anything I can do to help the whitetail deer or anybody else manage the whitetail deer, I'm here for them. So just give me a call.
Again, Donald Hill, owner of Oak Creek Whitetail Ranch. Thank you so much for giving us some insights that people haven't heard before on the show. So, on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, thanks for being a great guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
Thanks, Bruce. I enjoyed it.
On the next episode, we're heading down to Georgia and we're going to talk to Hurricane Jane. Who's Hurricane Jane? Well, that's an AKA, also known as, and It's Bianca Burnett, and she's a Southern lady that grew up in Georgia, and she was raised on a farm, and so she was all around hunting because they had a lot of deer, and she didn't start hunting till later on in life, and she's gonna tell you what it took to get her in her tree stand and why she is an outdoor woman. Stay tuned, it's gonna be fun.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.